What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to Traps with Tenebris. For today, we're going to be talking about some especially effective traps when it comes to defense. This trap is kind of like a multi-purpose defense trap where it is broken up into segments and is really effective against packs of hunters that are trying to flank you and against packs of runners that are trying to rush you. Most of the traps that I've covered so far have been effectively offensive traps, but this time I decided to kind of challenge myself to see if I could set up a trap that was better for defense. And I think I've come up with a pretty solid working strategy, but I'm going to be further refining this whole defensive trap idea as this trap series goes on. But with that out of the way, let's start talking about this trap here. Setup for this trap is really simple. Essentially all it is a landmine and a large fuel cell. And this is the way the segment will look. You'll put down the large fuel cell, and then you'll put down the landmine kind of adjacent to it. Now, the good thing about this trap is that it's expandable, so the more large fuel cells and the more mines you have, you can kind of stretch this line out as far as you need to. And if you go into a combat situation and lay out this kind of defensive line, you'll be able to kind of have a point that you can try to draw enemies into to kill them very, very easily. Now, the small caveat to this whole trap is that it's most effective against hunters and runners. For the runners, you'll be able to get a large group together and blow them all up in one fell swoop. And for the hunters, the large fuel cell is enough of an explosive to take down everything all the way up to the Phoenix class. So this trap is really, really useful when you have hunters trying to flank you in solo play, or say if you're just trying to set up a trap for hunters in general. Sometimes it'll be good to maybe even position a lure behind it so that way you could draw the enemies into the explosive you've set. But with the little bit of talking about how it's set up and the little bit of trivia behind it out of the way, let's take this out into the field and show off some examples of this thing. So, a bit of a word to the wise, sometimes it's good to kind of keep control of the enemies that are coming towards you, because sometimes a runner might have too much gusto for its own good, and will wind up running into the trap before you intend to set it off. So it's always good to kind of keep control of the enemy line as much as you can, while you're staying behind your defensive line. And now you'll be able to see this trap was incredibly effective against the hunters and took down half of them in one fell swoop there. So for this clip here, I was trying to see if this trap could be a tank killer, if you did some nominal damage to the tank beforehand. Sadly, it isn't, but I think I'm getting really close here to figuring out an effective trap to take down a tank without firing any sort of bullets at all. We'll only be able to see in time if I can actually come up with something, but I think I'm getting pretty close here. Now for this part here, it's a little bit more sciencing, but I was trying to see if removing the hunter's guns could potentially try to, like, funnel them into my trap. And sadly, one of the big flaws with setting up traps in this game is unpredictable AI. I'm planning on putting together a small video just giving some feedback to the developers about traps in this game and how they could be improved. Of course, none of this stuff is ever a priority because having fun with traps in this game is kind of more of a novelty in Generation Zero than a necessity. But, yeah, I'm gonna put together a video probably after I'm done this whole trap series to just give a little bit of feedback to the devs. But here, I managed to have a pretty successful time setting up this trap and using it again in that kind of segmented stance that I talked about before. So instead of putting it all down in a single row this time, I decided to actually use it kind of sparsely in order to defend myself from the hunters that were trying to flank me. And I think that it actually managed to work out really well. So, there you guys go. A very effective defensive trap. Sometimes it can go wrong when the enemy's AI will lead like one of the machines into the explosion, therefore not catching the rest of the machines. But as you saw from my little encounter with the runners there, if you can get multiple machines into this explosion, it is incredibly effective and efficient to use. It'll save you tons of ammo, and can be a fun trap to set up and pull off. As well with that little hunter encounter, you could see how breaking it up into its individual segments can also sometimes be a useful tactic if you've got hunters running all around you, but you're trying to focus on an individual enemy, like the tank I was fighting there. So, thank you so much for watching. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this little trap, and I will catch you guys in the next one. Until then, peace.